Heavy metal has always thrived in the margins, born from rebellion, sharpened by distortion, and sustained by a global legion of fans who worship riffs louder than reason. Yet for every Metallica or Maiden, there's a masterpiece buried in obscurity. Albums that shred with brilliance but never broke through the noise. This is a tribute to those unsung records, undeniable in their power, overlooked by the masses. Whether lost to bad timing, label neglect, or simply too weird for mainstream metalheads, these albums deserve resurrection. We'll dive into the forgotten corners of thrash, doom, black, and avant-garde metal to spotlight the records that should have been legends, but instead became cult whispers. This is overlooked and undeniable. Some metal songs roar across the world the moment they're released, and others slip into the shadows, waiting for the right ears to discover them. The overlooked ones are often the most thrilling. Tracks that never got radio play, never became fan forum staples, never made the essential listening lists, yet carry the same fire, craft, and ferocity as the giants of the genre. These are the songs whispered about by diehards, traded like secret relics, and rediscovered by listeners who suddenly realize they've stumbled onto something powerful. Metal has always thrived in the margins, and that's where its hidden treasures live. Elder statesmen of metal remember days of shopping record store bins looking for that next great band, a ritual younger audiences have been deprived. The 5 songs in this essay aren't just underrated, they kick ass. The kind of tracks that remind you why digging deeper into the genre is worth every minute. They're riffs that deserved more volume, choruses that should have echoed farther, and moments of brilliance that prove metal's greatest surprises often come from the places no one is looking. Sacred Reich's Death Squad hits like a brick to the teeth. But the real weapon is that absolutely killer main riff, one of the most vicious, tightly coiled thrash riffs of the late 80s that somehow never gets the spotlight it deserves. It's a riff that doesn't just open the song, it defines it. The moment it kicks in, you get that perfect blend of speed and precision, a serrated, palm-muted attack that feels like it's revving an engine built for war. There's a mechanical relentlessness to it, but also a groove lurking underneath, the kind of rhythmic swagger that separates Sacred Reich from the more straightforward thrash bands of their era. They weren't just fast, they were sharp, and Death Squad proves it in the first 10 seconds. What makes the riff so memorable is how it balances aggression with clarity. Every note punches through the mix, every downstroke feels intentional. It's not a blur, it's a statement. The riff marches forward with militant precision, perfectly matching the song's themes, but it also has that head-snapping bounce that makes you want to replay it just to feel that impact again. It's the kind of riff that could have, and should have, been mentioned in the same breath as early Metallica or Megadeth, yet it remains criminally overlooked. Phil Ryan's vocals ride that riff like a battering ram, but the guitars are the real stars here. They lock into a pattern that feels both classic and uniquely Sacred Reich. Tight, disciplined, and absolutely feral. It's the kind of riff that makes you wonder how this track didn't become a thrash anthem, because it has all the ingredients: speed, attitude, and that unmistakable thing that separates the boys from metal gods. Danzig, Devil on Highway 9. It's a song built on grit, swagger, and that unmistakable Danzig menace, yet it carries a cinematic quality that makes it feel larger than life. The moment that grinding, dust-choked riff kicks in, you're not just listening, you're entering a world. A world of scorched asphalt, desert heat, and supernatural danger. Glenn Danzig has always excelled at myth-making, but here he distills it into something lean, muscular, and instantly evocative. What makes Devil on Highway 9 so compelling is its fusion of simplicity and atmosphere. The riff is primal, almost caveman-heavy, yet it rolls forward with the confidence of a biker gang cresting a ridge at sunset. The drums hit like warning shots. Danzig's vocals, rougher, older, but still commanding, give the track a gritty authenticity that fits the theme perfectly. He doesn't sound polished, he sounds weathered, like a narrator who's actually seen the devil out there on the asphalt. Lyrically, the song taps into classic Americana horror, the lonely highway, the lurking evil, the sense that the world is bigger and stranger than we admit. Without quoting directly, the imagery evokes a kind of metal-infused folklore, the kind of tale you'd hear from someone who's spent too many nights driving through the desert with nothing but static on the radio. It's mythic but grounded, a campfire story told with distortion pedals. Despite all this, the track never got the recognition it deserved. Maybe it was overshadowed by nostalgia for Danzig's earlier eras. Maybe it was lost in the noise of modern metal's endless churn. But for listeners willing to dig deeper, Devil on Highway 9 stands tall as one of the strongest, most atmospheric pieces of his later catalogue. It's a reminder that Danzig's creative fire didn't fade, it just smoldered, waiting for the right moment to flare. Atrophy, product of the past.
Sun is down, lights go warm, glass and concrete hill. Pieces around, she begins to prowl with every snow.
Atrophy's product of the past stands as one of the great, should-have-been-bigger triumphs of late 80s, early 90s thrash, a record that proves the band never lost their bite, their intelligence, or their ability to weaponize speed into social commentary. While the mainstream metal narrative often focuses on the giants, Atrophy carved out a space defined by precision riffing, political awareness, and a uniquely sardonic voice. Product of the Past is the culmination of that identity, a blistering reminder that thrash could be both ferocious and thoughtful, without sacrificing an ounce of aggression. The guitars slice with surgical clarity, the rhythm section hits with a street-level toughness, and the vocals deliver a perfect mix of sneer and conviction. Atrophy never chased trends. They doubled down on what made them distinct. In an era when many thrash bands softened their edges or drifted toward commercial sounds, Atrophy stayed defiantly rooted in the raw, socially aware spirit of the genre. Lyrically, Product of the Past is a time capsule of frustration, cynicism, and cultural observation. It channels the anxieties of a generation raised on Cold War tension, economic uncertainty, and media manipulation, yet it never feels dated. The themes, alienation, political distrust, societal decay, still resonate. Atrophy understood that thrash wasn't just about speed, it was about speaking truth through distortion, and this album does exactly that. What makes Product of the Past truly special is its sense of continuity. It feels like the natural evolution of the ideas first unleashed on socialized hate and violent by nature, but with a maturity that doesn't dull the edge. It's a record made by musicians who grew up, got sharper, and refused to compromise. In many ways, it's the kind of album that proves thrash's longevity. When the riffs are real and the message is honest, the music never dies. Atrophy may not have become a household name, but Product of the Past stands as proof that some of the most vital thrash came from the bands who stayed hungry, stayed angry, and stayed authentic. It's a testament to the genre's underground power. Q5. Pull the Trigger. This is one of those rare heavy metal releases that feels both fiercely confident and criminally overlooked, a record that captures the raw electricity of early 80s metal while carving out its own identity through razor-sharp songwriting and melodic power. It's an album that doesn't just ask for attention, it demands it, firing off riff after riff with the swagger of a band that knew exactly what they were capable of. What makes Pull the Trigger so compelling is its precision-crafted blend of melody and muscle. 5 Guatemalan Quetzal never relied on sheer volume or speed to make their point. Instead, they built songs around hooks that hit like steel cables snapping under tension, vocals that soar without losing grit, and guitar lines that feel engineered for maximum impact. There's a sense of urgency running through the record, a feeling that the band is pushing forward with everything they've got. It's heavy metal with ambition, not just to entertain but to ignite. Lyrically, Pull the Trigger is a straightforward anthem about a hitman. That simplicity is part of its power. And this album delivers it in spades. Decades later, Pull the Trigger still feels fresh. It's the kind of song that makes you wonder how it didn't become a global staple, a reminder that some of the most electrifying metal came from bands who operated just outside the spotlight. They had riffs, attitude, and a sound that hit with the force of a live wire. Pull the Trigger remains a testament to heavy metal's golden era, bold, melodic, and unapologetically loud. It's a record that deserves to be rediscovered, re-celebrated, and played at full volume. Toxik, Pain and Misery. A song that hits like a clenched fist. Not because it's trying to be brutal for brutality's sake, but because every riff, every lyric, every scream feels carved directly from lived experience. It's the sound of a band refusing to sand down the edges, choosing instead to weaponize their frustration into something sharp, honest, and unforgettable. What sets Pain and Misery apart is its unvarnished emotional weight. Toxik doesn't hide behind theatrics or polish. The guitars grind with a gritty, street-level intensity, the drums punch with a sense of urgency, and the vocals carry that perfect mix of rage and vulnerability. It's heavy metal stripped to its essentials, raw feeling delivered through distortion and defiance. Toxik understands the power of repetition, tension, and release. This track builds like a pressure chamber, then explodes in moments that feel both chaotic and controlled. It's the kind of record where you can hear the band's chemistry in every transition, every synchronized hit, every shouted chorus. Lyrically, Pain and Misery is a portrait of struggle, personal, social, emotional. It collapses into despair, the despair of one trapped in the endless cycle of addiction and suffering. It is an anthem to those on the verge of losing everything to drugs, a message often explored in 80s metal but rarely this effectively. Decades later, Pain and Misery stands as a testament to the underground's ability to produce metal that's more honest, more human, and more impactful than many mainstream releases. They delivered a record that feels like a punch to the chest, and sometimes that's exactly what heavy metal is supposed to be. Pain and Misery remains a reminder that the most powerful metal often comes from bands who refuse to compromise, who turn their scars into sound, and who understand that truth hits harder than perfection. The deeper you dig into metal's vast history, the clearer it becomes that some of the genre's most powerful statements never got the spotlight they deserved. Together, these 5 overlooked classics form a kind of alternate history of metal, one where innovation thrives outside of the limelight, where passion outweighs promotion, and where bands create because they have to, not because the industry demands it. They remind us that metal's true strength has always come from the underground, from musicians who push forward with conviction, intensity, and zero compromise. If anything, revisiting these songs shows how much incredible music still waits in the shadows. For every household name, there's a band who delivered something just as vital, just as ferocious, just as unforgettable, and that's the beauty of metal. The treasure hunt never ends. So crank the volume, dig deeper, and keep exploring. The past still has plenty of fire left to unleash.